They lied to you about the nature of enlightenment. It is far, far crazier than anything that they have told you. Welcome back to the Thunder Wizard YouTube channel. As always, my suggestion to you is to question your reality and then change it. This YouTube channel is funded by the thunderwizard.com website, where you can find higher dimensional energy practices, personal mentorship, spiritual counseling, live Zoom group classes, and my books can be found at michaelwilliamdenny.com. So today I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit of my reflections on my experiences and comparing them to what we've been taught about what enlightenment is. I found it to be far, far different than that. But be sure to stay for the whole video, because I am going to take you into a technique, an interdimensional deity mirroring technique for manifestation magic. And this is a surefire way, a foolproof way that you can create an entire reality and to create yourself. And so I'll get into that, and in the process I'll be sharing with you some of my most recent interactions with higher dimensional beings. So before we get into that, what is enlightenment? What the heck is this thing that people call enlightenment? Well, like you, I got this idea that enlightenment was where you get to this spiritual state of mind where nothing bothers you, you don't have any attachments, you are filled with love, and at the same time you sort of don't have any feelings whatsoever. You're just sort of in this nebulous nowhere place, and you don't have an ego, you're nobody. This is the kind of thing that people talk about when they talk about enlightenment. I've never experienced anything anywhere near like that, and I've never seen it. I've trained with very high-level teachers of all different kinds, and I've never once seen somebody who really was that, who just sort of walked around on water and nothing really bothered them, and they had nothing but love, and they had no attachments and very few emotions, and they were just at peace all the time. I've never seen that. My experience with teachers that were involved in very high-level energetic and meditative practices was that they were sometimes, ranged from being completely bonkers and out of their mind to extremely emotional people who were up and down all the time. The people whom I respected the most were people who were able to live a life of consciousness, of being able to make conscious decisions about their life and about their relationships. And I appreciated them as teachers because they could show me through example what happens when they go through the same kinds of ups and downs and craziness and pain and delusion that we all go through, and to watch them take very clear, confident, conscious actions towards themselves and to others. And those are the people that I look to as my mentors and my teachers. But if I'm honest with you, every single one of my teachers disappointed me and failed me in terms of my expectations. At some point along the way, I would uncover their fatal flaw, and it would be so, it would be something that I felt if I stayed with them that I wouldn't ever, I wouldn't go beyond that, and I would want to rise beyond where they were. So you could say maybe I matured beyond them or whatever it was. But so I've never experienced that. My experience, and I haven't even gotten into the crazy stuff yet, but my experience with my journey has been, I've always had this intuition that nothing ever ends. There's never an end to spiritual transformation. There's never an end to spiritual awakening. So the whole idea of enlightenment, reaching a state of samadhi, reaching a state of enlightenment, it doesn't exist. Listen, everybody's got to have a goal to work towards, so I'm okay with that, but it doesn't exist. No matter, when you get to a certain level, there's other levels to get to, and that's, I've always had that intuition that that's the case, and that's always been the case in my life. I've been training in energetic practices, very high level esoteric energetic martial arts, and those, from the very beginning, the teachers would say there's no end to this. You can't master it. Once you get to a certain level, there's another level beyond that. And, we're talking about people who could do absolutely unbelievable, impossible things with their energy. And number one, they weren't enlightened by any stretch of the imagination. And number two, their abilities were far beyond anything I could have even comprehended. So the thought of, going beyond where they were, I couldn't even begin to understand what that would be. And they would assure me, no, trust me, my teacher was far more powerful than I am, and even he hadn't reached the highest levels. And so I appreciated that there was always this feeling of you never get to the end ever. And if you ever get to the end of something, it's not that profound. Something that's profound, there's never an end to it. It always opens up into a new dimension. And now I know that is the case when it comes to the spiritual world. So again, I'm going to give you a technique a little later on in the video, and in other words, if this is what genies are. The mythology around the folklore around genies is that if you're able to awaken a genie or free a genie, that the genie then gives you 3 wishes, and no matter what it is that you ask, the genie has to grant it to you. And this is found in Vedic understanding as well. When you chant a certain mantra, however many hundreds or thousands of times, and follow all of the instructions, then the deity appears to you, and the deity must give you whatever you ask. This is probably a better example, because in the Vedic mythology, when demons end up controlling the world, and by the way, those demons aren't really demons. It's a mistranslation. Asuras, even the word asura originally meant God. It means power. Indra was called an asura. Later on, the asuras became known as what in the Norse tradition would be the Vanir. So the Vanir were earth gods. They were gods associated with earth and magic and reproduction and things like that. Whereas the Aesir, which is a cognate for the word asura, Aesir meant the celestial deities, literally the stars in the sky. And so the celestial deities, they lived in this state of very high level perfection, and they didn't like anything that wasn't, part of their understanding of perfection. And, cycles of nature, of good and bad, life and death, sex and all that kind of stuff. That was something they didn't like because it wasn't perfect. It flowed and ebbed, and it wasn't their continuous shining perfect reality. So there was this war between the Aesir and the Vanir. So that's mirrored in the sister religion of the Vedic, which is, the Vedic and the Norse come from an original Indo-European source, so they have a lot of similarities. And so that is mirrored in the Norse, where the Aesir fight the Vanir. It's really not that, it's not a fight, it's that there's a different level of understanding. So so you could call, so what I was going to say is that in the Vedic tradition, the Asuras, which really mean the Vanir, the Asuras would worship one of the gods like Shiva, for example. Worship Shiva for 10,000 years standing on one leg, and then Shiva would appear to that Asura and would have to give that Asura whatever that Asura wanted. And so they would want to rule the world. So Shiva would grant them that, or Brahma, or whoever it was. And then it creates a whole other mythology where Rama has to be born and then has to fight the demon and bring back peace and stability to the earth. So I'm telling you that I've experienced something which I believe is similar to that, if not identical, where you interact with a deity from a higher dimension. And if that deity makes a proclamation, you are this, or whatever, because they have what's called Vak Siddhi, which means the power of magical speech, they can speak reality into existence. If they choose to do that with you, then it is guaranteed that what they say will manifest, it will come to pass. And so I'm saying this is something that should be sought out. Now the question is, how do you get the attention of these beings that have this kind of power and all that kind of stuff? So I'll get into that when we get into this, and I'll share my experience. So I've got my list here so I stay on track. But let me explain to you what I believe the physics behind this is, the understanding of this. So we're in the third dimension, or we're actually not. The truth is we're not here. We're not in this third dimension. Our focus of our perception is in this third dimensional video game. And I believe his name is Donald Hoffman, Dr. Donald Hoffman. Look him up on YouTube. He's talking about that mathematically, this is what I love. I mean, I don't know anything about, I'm not a mathematician, but according to him, mathematically he has proven scientifically that we live in a video game, in a simulation. And he talks about that we're living inside of a headset, a VR headset. And so he talks about, going beyond that. And what science does, which religion does, philosophy, everything that we use in the third dimension to understand the third dimension, to be freed from it, is something that's happening inside of the headset. So it's the headset examining itself. It can only go so far. And so that's why we're challenging. We're challenged in here because we're trying to play the game by using the game. It's like you're an avatar stuck inside of a video game, and instead of getting the cheat codes from the programmers outside of the game, you're stuck within what the game allows you to do. And maybe the game is programmed to allow you to get this or achieve that, but it's really not programmed to take you out of the game. With that in mind, my experience with this dynamic of working with, a so-called genie, or working with a deity that grants you your every wish, is that they're outside of the program. And so they're not bound by the rules of the program. In fact, they can program it. They can tell the program what to do. And if you are part of that program, and this deity says you are this, you're a movie star, you're a famous musician, you're the king of the universe or whatever it is, then because they say that, it becomes manifest. Now for them it's child's play because they're not bound by it. They're in a much higher, they're in their own headset. They're in a much bigger, much more intricate, complicated headset. It's far beyond, ours is child's play compared to theirs. So anyway, I want you to just hold on to that understanding, and so now let me share with you my most recent interaction. Before I do that, let me again share with you what happened when I first started working with ETs. And as you know, you've heard me say it numerous times, I did my first live guided interdimensional meditation, and I took us all to the sun and we sent energy to Earth. I don't remember I think we chanted. I don't remember what we did. And then we came back, and that was an interesting experience. And I felt as though it was something I should do, or I felt like I was led to do that, but wasn't really sure. And immediately after that, the light beings were beside themselves with gratitude. Like, thank you so much. You have no idea what you've just accomplished. And right after that, there was a big solar storm. They said, you did that. Then you've started, the solar flash event. You did that. And I was like, what? I did? I had, I'm just playing around with a meditation. I wasn't part of my thought process. Apparently, the fact that I was doing it innocently just for fun and simply to be helpful, because that's all I was thinking about was, well, how can I help this process along? And of course, for my own awakening and enlightenment. But I didn't have any attachment. I was just doing it for the sake of doing it. And apparently that, I believe, this is my judgment after the fact, that got the attention of some very powerful beings in higher dimensions. So after that, a being came to me, and I was told I was going to get an upgrade, and a being came and declared that I was the supreme ruler of this universe. I have a video. I should put it up. A video that it's me afterwards. I still got my little nose thing on so I can breathe at night, and I'm in my pajamas and I'm barely awake, and I'm making a video saying what was told to me because I didn't want to forget. And but the energy from that being was so powerful, as you know, it physically damaged me. My response to it. My struggling with it, my mental inability to accept it, and my struggling with it gave me some physical injuries, which I was able to overcome. But that's how powerful this being felt to me, because that's what it felt like. It felt like this being was making a proclamation, and when the energy hit me, it was mind shattering. It was so powerful. In any case, so recently, yesterday, I believe it might have been yesterday. At this point, what is time? Who cares about time? I believe it was yesterday, and or it was day before. It must have been day before yesterday. It was during the eclipse, which was very challenging for me. I was very depressed for a lot of that day, and so I believe that my light being friends were coming to my aid and helping me, and so I decided to meditate and to communicate with them, and that helped a great deal. And so after I was getting ready to end the meditation, and I had a slight instinct that there was another being that wanted to communicate. So I said, is there somebody out there that would like to talk with me? And I had the feeling that I could have just decided not to do it, but that my openness sort of opened the door even further. And a presence showed up, and I got the feeling that this presence was not like an ET or a spirit. It was from a much higher dimension. And the being said as much, said, hey, I'm a stranger to your dimension. I'm from a much higher dimension. Do I have your permission to come into your 3D reality? And I said, yes, of course, by all means, come on in. And I felt, the power, but it was very subtle at the same time. I wasn't overwhelmed by it. And this being led me to understand that they were from a much higher dimension, and that they were curious, that the meditations that we've been doing, twice a week, have had massive repercussions throughout the multiverse. And it reached to where this being was, and that being was like, whoa, what the heck is that? I need to go check that out. And so the being was basically saying, I'm just curious, because the amount of power that you've been able to generate, it's been quite interesting. And the being went on to say that you don't remember, but we actually know each other. You're actually from my dimension. You chose to come all the way down here to be of service and to be helpful to this entire dimension, so that all of the beings in this dimension would evolve. And this was, you don't remember any of that, but you made a huge sacrifice coming down here to experience all of this. By the way, I'm not sharing this to make myself look or feel superior to anybody. I'm sharing this with you because I believe what I'm saying is true for you as well. It's just a question of whether you wake up to it. That's my point in sharing this. So anyway, this being is explaining to me that, you really you're far more powerful than you realize. You're so many levels up from this third dimensional reality that you really can create whatever the heck you want. You can create any world. I mean, it's just not even, I know it feels like it's difficult for you, but it's really nothing. If you could just allow yourself to know that, I mean, you could literally do absolutely anything, beyond anything you can imagine. And I had this awareness of this being, because it reminded me of that first being that gave me that very lofty title. And I said, hang on, stay with me. I want your help. I said, I know that if you say something about me, it'll be true, and it'll happen whether I want it to or not. Or, I won't have to go through this struggle of trying to believe. I said, so I want your help. And being said, okay. And I can't remember exact, because I was in such deep meditation, I can't remember what I said, but I came up with, some really fantastical abilities. And I said, if you say that I have these abilities, I know it'll come true. So the being says, okay, so what is it that you want to have? So I said, I want to have the ability to create blah, blah, blah. And then the entity said, so you want me to tell you that you have the ability to create blah, blah, blah. And I said, yes, that's what I want you to say. So the deity said, you have the ability to blah, and I felt the energy. And I went, I'm on, so I got a little selfish. I said, wait, I got a few more. And it had to do with me overcoming my limitations, overcoming my fears, and accomplishing some of the things that this being said I was able to do. And I said, you say I can do this. I don't feel like I can, but I know if you say that I've done it, or that I am doing it, or that it will happen, I know it will happen whether I think it can happen or not. So that's why I want you to say it. And I can't remember what it was, but the last one I said, I want to have the ability, or I want to be able to, or I want this to happen. And this being said, you want me to do such and such? And I said, yes. And that being said, that's a decision you have to make. I can't make that decision for you. So I don't really know exactly what it was, that the other things that seemed so impossible to me, this being was able to, just speak into existence. But what I found interesting was that the being was also getting permission. So these really were things that I was working to create within myself and manifest for myself. And at the very least, the presence of this being gave me the faith that if they say it, it'll happen. Sort of like that, exactly like that New Testament scripture where Jesus is walking through some village and some woman goes up behind him and touches the hem of his garment, and he turns around and he says, "Who did that? I felt power leave me. Who did that?" And a woman, gets on her knees and says, "I'm sorry, I have this," she had a particular illness, "and I knew that if I could just touch the hem of your garment, that I would be healed." And he said, "Your faith has healed you." Right? So it was like that, exactly. He said, "You're the one that did it. I was just the touchstone for you to be able to do that." And so whenever the being would repeat back to me, "So you want me to give you this. Is that what you want?" I said, "Yes." And then the being would say, "You are," and I could feel this wave of energy hit me, which let me know that it was true. And then afterwards, I can't remember. Afterwards, I did remember what I wanted, and I was like, okay, I don't have to worry about this. It's just going to happen. When, how it's just going to happen. I don't have to worry about it. It's been spoken into existence by this much more powerful being than I am, so I don't have to worry about it. So I want to share with you how to do that. So we've got what I'm calling the interdimensional deity mirroring technique for manifestation magic. All right, so now before I get into it, here are the feelings that I got. Remember that this being came to me because I had gotten their attention, not by actively seeking to get their attention. I'm just doing things here, and that's important. I'm doing things for no purpose other than for my own empowerment and because I care for others, selflessly trying to help others evolve. That's all. And I don't need anybody's, I don't need God to tell me what to do or to be told I'm a good person or any of that stuff. I'm just doing it because, somebody's got to do it, and I want to help people, so I'm just going to do it. I don't care what I get out of it. I'm not looking for anything other than the joy of knowing that everybody's evolving. Right? So that's important because that, I believe, I got the feeling that's what this being was responding to. Like, hey man, you're out there doing some really great stuff and you're not even really aware of, what you're doing, or, you're not looking for anything from it. You're just doing it for the sake of doing it. That was the feeling I got. And that was what got their attention. In the two big events where the two big beings showed up, it wasn't because I was seeking them out. It wasn't because I was trying to accomplish anything. I just was being myself, and it happened to be that I had stumbled onto some kind of selfless act that got their attention. So just to let you know that. But it doesn't mean that I won't, keep trying to do this because whatever. All right, so where were we? All right, so techniques. So first off, do regular interdimensional meditation to expand yourself into higher dimensions. So do it for yourself. You enjoy it. You enjoy the energy. You enjoy the experiences. You enjoy the learning. You enjoy the adventure of it all. You want to expand. That should be your first goal. Wanting to expand beyond where you are, and just have crazy spiritual fun. Secondly, regular interdimensional meditation to intend healing and enlightenment for all beings. So I already talked about that, but that's pretty important. So that means, I'm kind of ruining it for you because I'm saying if you do it without wanting to get anything out of it, you'll get stuff out of it. So then you go, okay, I'm going to convince myself I'm doing it for, other. So you can't lie to yourself or the universe. So, just doing things for the sake of doing them because it's helpful. That's it. And just take joy out of knowing that you're helping other beings, really being of service to other beings. And learning how to do that on an interdimensional way. That's really I've come to find out that is the most powerful thing that I could do. Even if I were able to become president of the United States and clean house and get rid of the deep state and make all of the rules, even that I wouldn't be able to have nearly the power to affect people's consciousness and their everyday life. There's nothing more powerful than interdimensional meditation to do that. So when we're out there and we're sending energy to Earth, there's nothing more powerful than that, and nothing more. So just do it for the sake of doing it. Number 3 here: explore other dimensions, asking higher dimensional beings to teach you. So seek out other dimensions and other dimensional beings. They're around. There's a ton of them, infinite numbers of them around all the time. And if you notice them, they go, "Oh, you saw me. Let's talk." This is what happens when people, and I'm not recommending you do this, but this is what happens when people do ayahuasca or take, DMT. By the way, if you force it has a detrimental effect on your ability to retain the energy you get. So that's why you're much better doing, the Maoshan practices and then interdimensional meditation, because you can hold on to that energy, and whatever you've accomplished, you get to keep. If you cheat by using a chemical, you end up gaining no power out of it. You have an experience to remember, but it doesn't end up giving you anything in the long run. Do interdimensional meditation. In any case, do the meditations and seek to go outside of this dimension. Seek to find portals. This is, where your guide comes in. You have a higher dimensional guide, and you ask the guide to teach you things, to take you places, to show you stuff. And so, of course, the best way to do that is to find power for yourself. You want to empower yourself. So, ask questions, and, you've got nothing to lose. Sometimes, even if you're meditating and nothing's going on, but you send out a clear request, a clear message, somebody picks up on it, and at some point somebody will show up and say, "You wanted to go tour the 18th dimension? Yeah, come on with me. I'm going there right now. I'll take you." All right, so number 4, experiment with ways to create and expand your 5D world. If you'll notice, the most powerful motivators is your own selfish empowerment. Selfish is technically a bad word, but only in the context of trying to get something for yourself at somebody else's expense. But that's not what's happening here. You're out in interdimensional space, and you are seeking to empower yourself. So when you create your own perfect 5D world, it helps everybody. Because when you imagine a perfect, beautiful world, and of course you listen to the energy, your soul, your energy will become empowered when you're on the right path. If you start going down a wrong path, and it really is selfish, where it's based from ego or worse yet, false humility. Those people who say, "I'm nobody, I have no ego, I'm just a spiritual seeker." That's false humility. That's actually pride. Real humility is to say, "Yeah, I'm a multidimensional deity that creates entire universes, and I'm down here on planet Earth, in a much smaller form, experiencing and learning." That's true humility, to speak the truth without, worrying about what people think, and But I'm just a nobody, and I'm just here to help, and love and light, and that's false. That's virtue signaling. That's nonsense. People do that in religion all the time. Anyway, so what were we talking about? So experiment with ways to create and expand your 5D world. Point being, focus on what gives you joy. Go out there and create something new. Create a new level in your game. It's got to be fun. It's got to be something that you personally want. What do I want that I don't have? If I could create a perfect world that does stuff that this world can't do, but I would really enjoy, what would that be? Doesn't matter what, doesn't matter how selfish it is, meaning focused on your enjoyment. When you're truly involved in your enjoyment, everybody evolves with that. So that is a good motivator. If you're doing it because you want to look good, or you want, you only want people to like you, there's nothing wrong with wanting people to like you. Wanting to look good, wanting to have power over people, wanting to control things, control people, that's probably, you're going to take you down a bad road. You're not going to feel any energy. So you have to learn, in trial and error, what actually is self-affirming and what isn't. You'll be surprised, some of the things that you thought you didn't have the right to do and that was selfish and wrong, you'll find out, oh, the energy is really strong when I do that. That must mean this is good for all creation. And then other times you think, I'm just going to be, and you think you're doing something noble, and the energy dissipates, and you realize that's your false humility. It's your true negative ego jumping in there, pretending to be something that it's not. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So the fifth one, receive a powerful higher dimensional name or title. For example, Lord of Heaven. So I'm not saying, there's nothing wrong with making one up if you want to make up a name for yourself. You can find one. A good thing to do is to, if you get a Vedic astrological reading, give yourself a name based on your Aruta. If you want to know what that is, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com and you can get a reading from me or one of people who've trained with me. And so doing that, or find your spiritual name based on your moon nakshatra. Mahadeva it's not my moon nakshatra, it's my ascendant, but the syllable for my ascendant is Ma. And so my parents almost got it because they named me Michael, so that's close. But if I really want to empower my ascendant, the name Mahadeva is a great one. And it also aligns with the the nakshatra that I was born in, which is Magha, which means great. And so all of that. So that's why I gave myself that, and because in a dream many years ago, a beautiful woman showed up and called me that name, and I don't know that I was familiar with it. And so I remembered all that, and I noticed how, that lines up with my ascendant, so that's why I gave myself that name. Give yourself some kind of title, if you want to make one up, you can, but see if you can get one. You can ask a being, give me a name. And anyway, that's a very powerful, useful tool out in the astral world. And then introduce yourself to higher dimensional beings with your mythical name. So every now and then, especially earlier on, I would go out there and I'd go outside of Earth's orbit and I'd say, hello, I am Mahadeva, I am king of this Earth, I am the protector of Earth, whatever, bunch of titles that I had been given by other beings. I was repeating them because I wanted the higher dimensional beings to recognize me. So I recommend that you do that. It's a very powerful way to interact out there. And more than that, it helps you shift into that. When you say, I am so-and-so, you're not coming from your three-dimensional, self-devaluating, shame-based, I'm just a little nobody, I'm a sinner, oh God, please have mercy on me, I'm a piece of garbage. The light beings out there don't respond to that. If you go out there with that, they won't buy into that, they won't interact with that. If you come from a place of self-love and self-empowerment, they like that. They go chasing after that. You go, a self-empowered person. How can I help you? I'd really love to. I saw your energy and I really wanted to be a part of that. They're like that. Again, favorite story from, what's the guy's name? Joe Dispenza. You've heard me say this story before. He was doing a workshop on awakening the pineal gland, and he noticed that there were these huge light beings surrounding the room, and he didn't know if he was imagining it or not. Other people started seeing them. So he asked them, he said, why, don't you come and be a part of this with us? And they said, we would love to, but we can't. Because if we were to allow ourselves to shift down to your level, we would damage ourselves. And we love ourselves too much to damage ourselves. But if you can raise your frequency up towards us, we'll meet you halfway. So they respond to you when you come from a place of self-empowerment, a place of self-love. When you come from that place, it attracts them. And the more that you begin expanding into that, you become very attractive to higher dimensional beings. They really, since I started doing this, beings, have showed up and said, oh my God, we've been watching what you've been doing out there, and it's been so amazing, and everybody on my planet wants to meet you, and I just wanted to say hi. They love that when you're in a state of self-empowerment. Unlike the false 3D God that responds when you grovel on the ground and you have no self-esteem and you're an ugly sinner, this supposed humility. That stuff is toxic to higher dimensional consciousness, and they won't go where it's damaging to themselves. But if you're in actual self-empowerment and self-love, they enjoy that, so they come looking for that. The more that you keep expanding, the more of these beings will start coming to you, wanting to interact with you, teach you, help you, learn from you. It's a very interesting experience. All right, so introduce yourself to your higher dimensional beings with your mythical name. Leave open invitation to higher dimensional beings to visit you 24/7. So the more you go out there, you start making waves in the multiverse, which higher dimensional beings feel, and they start looking around for, where was that? Did you feel that? Where did that come from? So they want to start looking for that. So if you make a regular invitation to beings, and you tell them, just even if you go out, leave Earth's atmosphere or whatever, and just send out the mental invitation of, I would love to interact with any higher dimensional light beings out there. My name is so-and-so. I live at, wherever you live. And I just want you to know that my door is open to all of you at any point in time if you want to come talk to me. At some point that gets, onto the message boards out there, and somebody's checking their email and they go, oh, an earthling wants to talk. Well, I got nothing better to do. And they'll come down looking for you. So the mindset is important as well, that you are seeking to open that communication. And so, I've done this, other people have done this. Light beings have, 24/7 open invitation to come and talk to me whenever, for whatever reason. My home is your home. So you can choose to do that if you want as well. And you can choose not to do that. It's completely up to you. Um, Always say yes to any hypothetical question posed to you. So this is an interesting tactic. Now, again, there have been beings that show up and they just state you are the such and such, or this is happening, or here's the truth, or here's something you need to know. Usually more masculine oriented beings will do that. Feminine beings, in my experience, tend to ask questions, which is a really wonderful way. It's a way to engage you, but it does something really powerful as well. But, for instance, the work that we're doing now in these meditations, I believe that these meditations are the single most powerful aspect that is bringing the solar flash event. Like, I believe that we could actually say we are the ones bringing it. This thing that people have been talking about for decades and, prophesying that this is going to come. We're actually the ones bringing it. I believe that. Let's see, what was my point for that? There was a reason that I was saying that. Oh, say yes to a hypothetical question. So, early on in my interactions with this, of course, I was just trying to get my head around things like, you are a probability, that kind of stuff. And the fact that I was able to talk to my dead relatives and, work through past lives with them, I was still trying to get my head around that. And then I don't remember when it wasn't super recent, had to have been at least year and a half ago, a year ago. A really playful feminine being showed up. She was a lot of fun, and she said, "How would you like to be solely responsible for Earth shifting into 5D? How would you like that?" Now, that was a hypothetical question, and I said, "Well, gosh, let me think about it. I'd love that. I would love to be able to do that." And I don't remember her response, but it was something to the effect of, "Well, then you can do it. You are that." And so, if somebody had come to me, as did happen numerous times, if a being showed up and said, "You are going to be solely responsible for bringing the human race into the 5D," I mean, that might shut me down. Too much responsibility, too much, my ego couldn't get around it. But when, some beautiful, goddess like this one over here just, flies up to you and says, "Hey, here's something fun. How, hypothetically speaking, how would you like to be?" And then there's this big, huge thing. It's not as overwhelming, and it sounds fun, and you say yes, and you don't realize what you're saying yes to. It's just something fun. So be prepared for those kinds of questions. You can look at it as a test, because, what if I had said no? If, how would you feel? And if I said, "Well, I don't want to do that. That sounds like too much responsibility." I mean, one of the first things that was told me when beings first showed up and started telling me, first it was, "We're going to make you king of Earth." And then it was later, "No, you've always been king of Earth," and all of that. It was really traumatic for me. I couldn't get my brain around it. My ego was just breaking in all kinds of directions. And at one point, being said, "Well, look, we'll give it to somebody else if you don't want it." I said, No, I want it. I just, so I learned then not to fight with it, because that will just get in the way. The other thing I learned is that they never give you something or offer you something that isn't your deepest, fantasy anyway. Now, I don't have any need to have physical control over anything, but I love the idea as a teacher of being in a position to guide and heal and empower. I love that. My fantasy of being king of Earth is I don't own anything. I don't even own the throne that I sit in. That if I'm sitting in a throne and somebody comes to visit, I let them sit in the throne. I fantasize about little kids, walking by and asking about what's it like to be king. And I say, you sit there, and they'll get the power, and then I'll teach them. Now imagine sending healing power all over the earth. That's what being king is. Doesn't that sound like fun? Do you want to be king? Great. As soon as I'm done, you can be king if you want. I don't own anything. So, that makes sense. I mean, just objectively, I would say, well, let's make that guy king. He doesn't need it. So you're the one that's qualified because you're not attached to it. And I fantasize about, giving it up as soon as possible, and how much fun it will be to give it to somebody else. I've done what I can do, and I don't need to do anymore. Who's next? Somebody else has been tagged to do it. That's how I think about that, because it reaches my deepest fantasies. Those things make me feel good. The idea of making other people feel good and feel empowered, and actually empowering them, and that is my deepest fantasy. So whatever they give you is going to sound at first totally unbelievable, totally fantastical, totally unattainable, totally egocentric, narcissistic. That's going to be your first response to it. But the truth is that they're revealing the deepest fantasies within you that you're not even willing to look at. And it'll always be something grandiose and beautiful. And if you allow yourself to enjoy it, it will be the thing that gives you the greatest joy. All right, so always say yes to any hypothetical question posed to you. Always ask higher dimensional beings to show you how they see you, and repeat back to them. So if you've been doing the interdimensional meditations, I do this a lot. And again, I learned this early on in order to save my sanity. I'm grateful to those beings, because those beings came to me and they cracked me open, and they told me stuff that I absolutely was not prepared to hear. Nobody was telling me what I'm telling you. I hadn't found anybody that had even done any of this. Whether that has been the case or not, I don't know. These beings said, you're the first. Like, you're the first one that we've had this kind of interaction with. And so we're learning as we go along. And so they had to crack somebody open. They had to, so whether they've done it with other people, I'm sure they have. I hadn't been exposed to it, so it was as if I was the first person. And so the first thing, they show up and, you are a probability, and what do you want, like a genie, and then we're going to make you king of earth. All that kind of stuff. As if you go back, I mean, it broke me. It physically broke me. I gave myself a frozen shoulder, and I couldn't function. I could barely lift my right arm, because my left brain, the intellect, broke. It couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. So I'm grateful for that, because then I had to survive. And so I learned really quickly, in order to survive, I had to walk this tightrope of, on the one hand, taking everything that was being said to me at face value, just accept it without question. And at the same time, I didn't try and figure it out, and I didn't become emotionally attached. So in other words, they didn't say, you're king of earth, and then I turned around and went around trying to tell everybody I was king of earth. I kept it a secret. And still, I'm not attached to it. I still don't know what exactly that means. I have an idea of it. I have a literal 5D idea of it, and I continue to focus on that. But I also work not to be attached to that. It might turn out to be something completely different than I understand. It might be something far greater than I can probably understand. I mean, when they told me I was going to be, responsible for bringing Earth into the fifth dimension, I had no idea what that meant. And now I do. It's the interdimensional meditation we do every week. That's it. And out there in our astral bodies, what is happening is absolutely mythological. You know, the information coming back to me is that they're saying nothing like this has ever happened in the entire multiverse, in the history of the multiverse. Nothing like this has ever happened. It's the most powerful, amazing thing, and all the light beings are amazed as well. And, you know, they're literally writing mythology about us for other planets. Other planets have this mythology, you know, based on, you know, Mahadeva and whatever your name is going out there and, you know, doing whatever we're doing. But I wouldn't have known that if I tried to figure it out, so I didn't. And in the third dimensional video game, nobody knows and nobody cares. My neighbors don't care. You know, nobody knows what's going on. And yet the power that we have to affect this world is beyond anything that happens inside of the three-dimensional video game. So that's what I mean. That tightrope allows you a lot, where you, on the one hand, you take everything completely at face value, you don't minimize it, you don't spiritualize it, you accept it as literally as you can, and simultaneously you don't become attached to it and you don't control it, and you're allowing it to turn into whatever it needs to turn into, whether it's symbolic or whether it's in another dimension or whether it's a combination of the two. You don't try and figure it out. You have to expand into it. You have to become multidimensional. And that's something that happens by relaxing into it. So again, when you feel strong solar waves, and your first response is to feel anxious, which, by the way, I'm having less and less of a problem with that. I mean, we're getting a lot of solar radiation and I'm enjoying it, and I'm able to expand into it and relax into it a lot better than I did, 2 years ago. So, that's really what it is expanding into these higher dimensional waves as they hit. And so always ask beings to show you how they see you. That's important. Now, what you're doing is you're giving these beings an opportunity to be a genie. They're not going to force that on you. And you have to quiet yourself and listen. You have to be open to it. So you ask them, and you say, can you show me how you see me? And however that is, maybe you'll get a visual, maybe you'll get a word or a phrase, or get both, or you'll get a jolt of energy, or who knows, however they're going to interact with you. Maybe you'll get it and you won't even realize it. Again, one of the biggest things is people dismiss their intuitions. I did my entire life. I dismissed my intuitions. Looking back on it, the whole time I was getting communicated to by higher dimensional beings, but I just thought it was my intuition talking to me. And, I dismissed the majority of what my intuition told me to do or suggested that I do. So now I do the opposite. I listen and I accept it. And even if it sounds like my brain talking to me, I accept it and I say, yes, thank you. So it's important to do that, especially with the messages that might be challenging to hear. They might tell you something that you either can't understand or your ego will have a hard time with. It'll be too grandiose, it'll be too egotistical, and you'll want to reject it. And that is your third dimensional self-evaluation protection mechanism kicking in. So you do the opposite. So you ask them to show you whatever it is you see, feel, whatever fantasy you start to create, because it'll feel like that sometimes, that you're creating a fantasy. I'm doing this myself. Whatever it is, you accept it and you go with it. And then where it becomes lodged into reality is you repeat back to them. You repeat back to them what you saw. When you do that, that crystallizes it into manifestation. If you don't repeat back to it, there's a higher chance that you're going to dismiss it, spiritualize it, and throw it away. So it's not enough just that you heard it. You have to hear it, digest it, and then verbalize it back to them. It's also, it's like saying thank you. If somebody gives you a gift, the response is to say thank you. You're acknowledging what you've just received. Somebody gives you a gift, you look at it and drop it on the ground, you haven't acknowledged it, you haven't received it, you haven't accepted it. So by speaking back to them what you see, feel, or hear, it's a way of taking the gift. In other words, the gift is just an idea until you grab onto it and you accept it, and then it becomes real. Okay? So always repeat back to them what they tell you that they've seen. Lastly, ask higher dimensional beings to decree that you are whatever you wish, and then listen. So this was my experience. I was going to go into exactly who this deity was and who they said they were, but I'll make another video for that. But in any case, so if you run into a being that you feel is powerful, and you have something that you want to be able to overcome, you want to learn how to let go of your attachments, you want to learn how to stop smoking, I don't care what it is. There's something that you want to accomplish, achieve, and you feel like you can't do it, or you're afraid you won't be able to do it, or you don't trust your ability. Ask them, like for instance, you could say that you want to stop smoking, and then say, will you make a decree that I will stop smoking, that I'm a non-smoker, for example. Tell me that I'm a non-smoker. And then listen. They might respond and say, so you want me to tell you that you're a non-smoker? Yes, that's what I want. Okay, you're a non-smoker. And then listen for the energy. Listen for something. Take it in. That's really the technique. That's, as you saw, that's what I did with that being. Because I had already had experience with that extremely higher dimensional being that decreed I was Supreme Lord of the universe, when this being showed up, I said, not so fast. I want your help. You're from a higher dimension. I can feel it. I know that if you decree something, that I'm going to do or be something, that I won't be able to talk myself out of it. Your word will be more powerful than anything I could say. And so it works. And there's precedent for it. There's the mythology of genies, there's the Vedic mythology, the practice of chanting until a deity appears and then asking for what you want, and they have to give it to you. And of course, if they give it to you, then nobody can take it away from you. So it works. All right, that's it, my friends. There's a lot of stuff coming up. Things are changing very fast. Watch out for what's going to be coming. Keep your eyes open for October 6th. I don't know. I'm guessing this isn't coming from anybody. Nobody came to me and said October 6th. I'm putting things together. Beings told me, look out for a comet in the sky. When the comet shows up, things are going to happen. I woke up one morning with October 6th on a calendar, so I went and found out what that was. I put 2 and 2 together. So I'm not telling you this is what they told me. I'm just saying, these are some clues. Let's keep our eyes out. October 6th might be the day for all I know. October 6th might be the solar flash event. A lot of us doing this work feel like the time for us to leave this world is coming quickly. I've gotten that message. Other people have as well. But I'm not attached to it. I accept it. I like that idea. I'm going to keep that thought in my mind, but I'm not going to be attached to it. October 7th rolls around and nothing's changed. I'll continue on with my life as I have before. But I'm going to keep my eyes open. I think something, without a doubt, something is going to happen. Even if it's like, 2012, we shifted from one world to the next. Nobody knew the difference, but it absolutely took place. So I think the same thing is happening. Excuse me. All right, that's it, my friends. I love you. You're the most powerful being that ever existed, blah, blah, blah. And just note that your value and your lovability comes because you simply exist. You don't have to do anything else. There's nothing more that you have to do to be more lovable than you already are, because you're God. God doesn't have to do or be anything. You already are everything. Thank you, as always. Until next time, please take very good care of yourselves, and I'll see you all very soon.